Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics Tuesday night live Q&A. We are live on Tuesday, the 23rd of July, ahead of round 20. We have a two in the fixtures now, so we're nearing the very end of the season. I'm your host, AFL Fantasy Fanatic, Bales, and you can find me at BalesDT across all the socials. And as always, if you are tuning in live on YouTube or Twitter or Twitch, we are got on Twitch. We don't have too many people tuning in over there. But we do have live. So if anyone is on Twitch, then or YouTube or Twitter, then leave your questions or players you want to discuss in the live chats, and we will get to those very, very shortly. But as always, we'll introduce the people that jumped on. And joining me is one of my fellow co-hosts and fantasy fanatics. It is Jordox, mate. How are you? And how you been since the pod?
Yeah, good, mate. Good to be on. I think I'm getting old, Bales, because I don't even know what Twitch is. So hello to all the Twitch people out there twitching away. Hey, round 20. I know we say this every year, but how the hell is it round 20 already? I mean, I'm now getting to the point where I'm starting to get a bit sad because it's like, oh, no, what am I going to do with my time in 6 weeks? I guess spend time with my family and my job. But I can't believe how quick the year's gone, is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, for me, fantasy never sleeps because AFLW fantasy content has started, obviously, for people who haven't checked out. Free Kick Pod, make sure you do. The club previews have started, so make sure you check those guys out doing great work over there in your go-to AFLW fantasy pod. And joining us, a very special guest. It's been a few rounds since we've had him on, but it's good to have him back on again. It is DT Lemon. Mate, how are you? And also, I've heard that you had a pretty good week this past week. So do you want to walk us through how you went?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Bales and Jordox. Yeah, it's always nice jumping on the pod after a good week. So I had a round rank of 323. So made a big jump up into the top 1,000, which is nice. It's good to be back there. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it this year, but hopefully I can hang on or maybe even push close to that top 100. So yeah, had a pretty good week. Not too many bad performers, and got on the right end of a few trades. But I guess now it's just the tricky part of the year where we've got a few rounds to navigate. It's you're just sort of trying to get points on field at the moment. So yeah, happy to.
Did you vice
Midfield?
Whitfield?
No, I had Marshall vice captain, so I was pretty happy with that.
It's a good score without the 140 captain.
I was thinking about maybe rolling into Cherry, which wouldn't have been that much more anyway. So I think you take a 118 as a captain.
Definitely.
I had the same thoughts. Yeah, I was nearly going to go to English, and I thought I'll stick just 118. I think it's right on the thing. It's just too much, I think, to give up. Any more can go wrong really than right. I think when you've got such a high VC. But so who were some of the big performers in your team on the weekend? Obviously, there's plenty of big scores floating around.
Yeah, I mean, a heap. I had Brian Myers, and apart from that, everyone did pretty well. I think Adam Treloar was a big one for me. He's quite unique, and he really hurt me last week when he pulled out last minute. But I'm pretty happy I held him because 149 as a bit of a pod player in the midfield, particularly when like Bond didn't play that well, and Jordan Dawson didn't score that well. There are a few. Dunkley didn't score that well. Adam Treloar was a massive up for me. So. He was the big one, but I also brought in Jack Steele for a 130, which was nice. And just a lot of other good scores from good players. So.
Exactly. But it's quite funny when you sort of look at it, right? Like Josh Dunkley over the last 2 weeks averaged 83.5. And then you have a guy like Treloar who missed a week. And obviously you had, who'd you have covering for him last week, actually?
I had Logan Evans. So it actually wasn't too bad. I got like an 80 from him, I think. So when you put that with a 149, it's actually Adam Treloar hasn't cost me too much, really. So let's just hope he doesn't put up a stinker this week against Sydney, because that could be ugly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully for all the Dunkley owners out there, hopefully you can do something similar and go 140 and make up for that. But let's obviously get stuck in a few issues. But actually, we actually have a couple of early super chats, so I appreciate these floating through. So let's have a look at these. So Corey Blackledger's got the first one, so thank you very much for this, Corey. He said, thoughts on getting Sheel back in for Luke Ryan and Ed Richards for Sam Walsh. Lemon, what are your thoughts on firstly Sheel back in, and then what are your thoughts on Ed Richards as an option, and would you trade out Sam Walsh?
Yeah, I think Sheel back in is a slam dunk this time of year. I'm with Corey here. I traded Sheel for Ryan back before the buys, and it worked out okay. And then it sort of blew up in my face. And I'm almost certainly going to be getting back on Sheel this week just for a nice run. He's looking good. Looks like he's really settled into that midfield role. So I definitely ticked that one off. Ed Richards, I'm not so sure about. The Bulldogs are playing Sydney this week, so that's a horrible matchup. If you want him, I'd maybe wait a week and jump on afterwards.
Yeah, I'm personally not wanting to. I'm looking at bringing Sam Walsh in as early as next week because he's got a very good run. He's got starting with Collingwood next week. He's got a tough one this week, but I don't know if I'd be trading Walsh just yet. I know he's got a bit of a sore back, and I think he'd I don't even know what he had, but
I reckon there's an argument for it. But let's look at the next question. Actually, before we do, just on Ed Richards, I'd be careful. I mean, the weekend was awesome, 130, I think it was. But he's been in this role for a while, and he can just score 70. So
that was his first ton in a while as well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And he's got it in him. He's the sort of guy that's often on 65 at halftime and then finishes on 87. So he's still growing, and he's growing. He's still young enough, and he's maturing. In a couple of years, he could be a primo in our midfields, but I don't know if I'd do it right now.
Yeah, well, fun enough, since so he got that massive ton against Richmond with the 141, and every score then 97, 66, obviously injured in that game there, but 93, 90, 68, 73, and then the 131. So yeah, you're probably not. I don't know if you trust that long term there. And then the second super chat here for Power Prawn Star. So thank you very much for that, mate. His question here was, hey, lads, Simpkin to Keys or Walsh to Steele? First trade is Horn Francis to Treloar, drop 400 spots to 9923. I reckon that's actually 16 spots above the Calvinator. So right now near him, mate. Fantasy sucks, he says at the end there as well. So, but yeah, Lemon, mate, thoughts on what trade you'd be doing there?
Yeah, I feel for Power Prawn Star. It can be hard sometimes if you lose a bit of momentum and you just find your rank sliding, and it is frustrating. I probably wouldn't be trading trading Simpkin this week. I think he's got a good run and he's still got a decent role. I don't think he's going to be a 100+ guy, but I can see him going at 80, 90 for a few weeks for you. Walsh to Steele, I don't mind. I jumped on Steele last week, so I'm a fan of his run. But I'd maybe look at getting creative. Is there something else you could do? Maybe do you just hang on to Walsh for this week, copper an 80 or a 90 against Port, and then hopefully he finishes the year strong. So, yeah. But JHF to Treloar, it's a massive upgrade. You got to get rid of JHF. So,
I'd agree with that. But just with Walsh, because then Jots will get your thoughts as well. But after Port, he's got Collingwood, Hawthorn, West Coast, St Kilda, with Hawthorn being the really only tricky matchup. But I still feel Walsh, Nash will go to, I would imagine, we go to Cripps, and then Walsh should be free to do what he needs to at the G. So he's got a pretty nice run to finish the year. But Jordox, your thoughts? Obviously, well, firstly, get your thoughts on Keys, obviously, as a Crows man, as an option, but then obviously your thoughts on the question.
Yeah, no, Keys. Look, I'm big on Keys. I wouldn't do it for Simpkin. I just think they're too similar. I'd be looking more at the Keys trade as if you could get someone up to Keys as maybe an F7, and you could loop between your F6 and F7. But I did tweet about Keys today, his last 4 weeks, what he's done from the buys, but also what he's averaging when Adelaide wins. So granted, we've only won 7 times, but he's averaging 97 in wins. So if you think the Crows are on the up, we've got 3 out of the last 4 we've won. If you think the Crows can win a few more on the run home,
finals. No,
hey,
we're 1% according to all the stats. And stuff.
I think it was like 9% chance. Anyway, that's not the point. Let me talk to you about Walsh, because I like Walsh to Steele. Actually, before I do Power Prawn Star, you realise there's 160,000 people that play this game. So whilst you're frustrated with your spot, you are ahead of 150,000. Is that right? My maths is shocking.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
ahead of a lot of people, mate. So don't beat yourself up.
In front of about maybe four or five content creators in the Content Creators Cup as well. So that's yeah.
Now, Sam Walsh and Clayton Oliver, I would like the two of you to tell me what they have in common this year. Any ideas?
What Sam Walsh and Clayton Oliver have got in common?
Mm-hmm. No preseason.
Yeah. Okay.
Now,
that's it.
Oliver's.
We forget
talked
Walsh didn't
about
have a preseason.
Yeah, we talk about Oliver's performance being because he hasn't had a preseason. I think there's a bit more to the story there over at Melbourne. They've got a few issues. But with Walsh, I mean, he's been brilliant, and now we're seeing a bit of a downturn in form. I don't know. I reckon jumping off Walsh at this point onto a Steele or similar could actually be a really smart move. Now, I haven't owned Walsh all year, but I'm no longer looking at him because I just have a feeling he's going to get a bit tired and they're going to want to get him prepared for finals because the Blues are in finals this year and they're going for the big one.
We saw how good he played in the finals last year.
Yep. And he's carrying knocks and whatever. But I don't know. Just all year I've been waiting for a bit of a dip. And it happened a few years ago when he missed the preseason with back issues. He came in, looked good, and then he was pretty inconsistent. So could be wrong, but something to think about.
Yeah, no, I guess when you're paying 850, 900, 950 for a midfielder, you wanted to go into a player that doesn't have sort of any sort of smoke or any clouds hovering over him, whether it be role changes or potential niggles or injuries or anything. So there's a few midfielders that I don't mind the look of, like Noah Anderson being potentially one of them with a good run after this week. So like even a guy like him, you could go instead. So no, it is a very, very good point you do raise there as well. So we do have another super chat here as well. So thank you very much from Tim Ashworth there as well. Thank you very much for that, mate. He says, rookie Dawson up. So I'm assuming that's Will Dawson, or Dawson to Stewart and Jackson to Wood. Or Jackson to Keys and Dawson to Training. So I'm not actually sure what. So it's a rookie. I'm assuming it means rookie down and Dawson up to someone, or Dawson to Stewart. No, hang on, no. Okay. I reckon I've got it. So I reckon he's saying rookie, Dawson down, and then Dawson up to Stewart, or would you be going Jackson to Wood? No, there's heaps of questions. I'm almost apologies, Tim.
Let's just break it down.
Lemon, what are your thoughts on the question?
I'm reading this as a rookie downgrade and then upgrade Dawson, or Dawson to Stewart, Jackson to Wood, or Jackson to Keys and Dawson to Taranto. So I think there's three options there.
Well, good thing that our Tim Guesty is not here because he would be saying, "I'm not answering this question," because every time there's more than one option, he's like, "Nah." So.
Maybe this is his alter ego, Tim Ashworth. Maybe he's just trying to trip us up on the podcast. I think I like the Dawson to Stewart and Jackson to Wood. I think that's a pretty good move, and you're getting sort of two upgrades there. I don't love the Jackson play now that Darcy's in the team, so I think you probably need to fix that one. I don't love bringing in Taranto as well, coming off the concussion. I just think that, he got concussed 12, 14 days ago, or whatever it is. So you just don't really know if he's been training all that much and if he's 100%,
and he'd be over 900, wouldn't he? Yeah, he is. So there's more value under 900 as well.
I'm a fan of Taranto if he plays well this week as an option move because he's got a decent run. But yeah, I agree. You don't want to be trading into a player that's coming off concussion just because you don't know how they're going to respond. So yeah, I think Stewart's a great option. Obviously jumped on him last week. Very, very happy with the 125 in less than ideal conditions with that absolute mud pit. It looked like something that I would play in like under 12s or 13s, just like on a Sunday, just rain pouring in like an absolute mud pit. So
they had the VFL game or whatever it was beforehand. So, yeah, I'm not sure any ground could take 2 games back to back in that weather. But
exactly,
hey, it's a nice day in Melbourne today. I'm hoping that's the end of the muddy, crappy, windy, rainy weather, and we get some more sunshine. Anyway, carry on.
Weatherman Jordox. But yeah, so but the one thing I wanted to discuss before we do again, because I want to get through a heap of questions because people are sending it through. So as always, make sure you keep sending them through. And if you'd like to send a super chat through, then you can also do that as well. But yeah, F6, that sort of seems to be where most people are like, what are we doing? And I chatted with this with MJ on a coach panel that will actually come out soon. So make sure you check that out as well. But I just want to rattle off just some of these scores from some of the popular F6 options and then just get your boys' thoughts on what we're doing. Because obviously the top 4 is there and Dylan Moore is probably most people's fifth. But in terms of the F6 spot, here are some of the scores. So Mason Wood was the good one with 106 on the weekend and a great matchup. But then Zach Fisher, 43. Brian Myers, 52. Luke Jackson in a big Freo win with Darcy back, 72. Ben Keys probably don't count just yet because he wasn't very popular before this week. Sextive, people held on to him, 48. Jai Simpkins, 61. Matt Kennedy, 56. Ollie Dempsey, if people were holding him, 30. Travis Boak, for any coach, still got him, 96 is pretty decent, a good matchup. Elijah Holland, 61. Anyone's got like a Jeremy Cameron, 33. Harry Mackay, 62. Toby Green, who I've unfortunately got, 58. Shea Bolton, 50. Brad Hill, 56. Like, there's just, like, even a guy like a Baker got 73. That's nothing too special, but better than everyone else. And then finally a Will Powell with a 41. So it's just all these bad scores. So Lemon, I'll start with you. So what are you thinking of doing? Are you just leaving the F6 spot, and whoever you've got there at the moment is sort of who you'll have if you've got like a Dowling and a Manor to potentially loop at F7 and stuff like that? What are your thoughts for this F6 spot?
Yeah, it's F6 has been a tough one all year. I think it was much easier when I had a rookie there and I'd just take a 60 and be happy. But now that we're actually trying to get a bit more than that, it's a nightmare. I think in this situation we've got to remember, you know, a lot of these guys you mentioned, they're probably averaging between 85 and 90. So if a guy's averaging 85 for the year, it means you're going to get a few 50s and 60s, but you also get a few 100s, 110s. So we can't expect these guys to be just punching out at 85 every week. It's going to be an up and down with the matchup. You know, if they get injured during the game, maybe their time on ground was managed or whatever it is. So I think we just have to expect a bit of a roller coaster here, which is why I love the F7 option of using a loophole, maybe a Dowling or a Manor or someone you can take a 75, 80 when you get it. And playing the matchups a little bit here. So maybe you just ride a guy who's got a good couple of matchups and then you jump ship. But realistically, it's not going to be a strength. So for me, I've got Myers at F6 and I'll probably just hold him there, maybe until the end of the year and just upgrade elsewhere because I don't think there's anywhere obvious to go from Myers. I might get a 5-10 point upgrade, but I'm backing him in to have some good weeks and bad weeks, and it might average out to 80 to 90 odd.
Exactly. Well, I've got Toby Green, and before this week, I was like, "Yep, the plan is to move him on and bring in a Simpkin or a Grind Myers or something like that. They've got good matchups." But then you look at this week, Toby Green scored more than Grind Myers and only scored 3 points less than the Simpkin. So I'm looking at it going, he's got Melbourne this week. You probably hold him. Melbourne's at the moment, they're a bit of a rabble at the moment. Gorn made back this week makes it a bit better, but then he's got Hawthorn. So that's at NG Stadium, which could be a good game for Green. So I'm sort of in that boat as well. Jordox, are you similar to Lemon's thoughts there? He's just sort of whoever you've got there. And I guess this is probably better for those coaches that have got a Dowling or a Manor, right? But if you don't have one of those two on the bench, is that where you may try and look to bring in someone to get that leg up?
Yeah, I've got Simpkin at F6, but I've got Jackson at F5. So I'd actually rather keep Simpkin over Jackson. Look, Jackson was okay. He had a bit of a knock to the knee in that last quarter. So he was on track for potentially an 85 to 90, which was pretty frustrating. So they just wrapped him up. And they've got the West Coast this week, who are not in the form they were in when they smashed Freo.
No McGovern, I don't think. No Duggan either in that defence.
Well, that's true. Yeah, so it's tempting to keep. Now, what's good for me, it's good English, what has worked out well for me is young Tholstrup has been ruled out with concussion. So I've got a red dot that I can play with. So I can just clear. If anyone did was just thinking, he meant good that it was he's missing, so he's got a red dot, not the concussion. No, of course not. No. Not good that he's hurt, but in terms of fantasy, it's handy that he's out. Anyway, I think, yeah, you know what I mean. So I've got the opportunity to have a look at maybe Simpkin on Saturday, but because I've got the two, I really don't know what to do. I mean, I could go Dowling and Tholstrup, one down, one up, and get myself a Keys and play it that way. But yeah, it's tricky. There are some names, if you go looking under 600, and none of them are reliable, but I guarantee you one of them will be the one we look back on in 5 weeks and say, "Oh, imagine we jumped on him." And
and we'll come back again. We're frustrated about last week. Philippou was that guy, and unfortunately, just didn't pan out.
So you got Taylor Adams, who did a tagging role on the weekend, which I think is good for his job security if he can play that role. If you look at his scores, if you take away the game where he was the sub, he's had one bad game scoring-wise in the last 6 games, 80s predominantly. Then you've got other guys like Toby Bedford, who's been playing a role in the midfield. There's Jack McRae. I'll keep scrolling past him. And then you got even an Alex Davies, if he's back next week, I think it is. And then there's a guy I wanted to talk about because he sticks out like a sore thumb. But Jack Billings, I mean, we all probably had him at the start of the year potentially, and 75 points in just over a quarter and a half of footy. He's 526k. So yeah, there'll be guys there that you could just stick, who are cheap enough to get up to F7, and then you could start looping. But yeah, it's a real interesting spot of the field, and yeah, looking forward to seeing how it all pans out.
I don't mind a Charlie Curnow just over 600k. Carlton got a decent run home as well, so he could go quite well. He's got West Coast as well, one of those games, which that could be, I think, kicked 10 against them last year at Optus. I think it was at Optus when he kicked 10 or something, or got 9 or got very close. So they've got them. Yeah. So he's got Collingwood next week. Obviously, they're beaten up at the moment.
We mentioned it on the Sunday pod about Curnow. Is the other good thing with him is when Carlton are trying to control the game or slow things down, he goes behind the ball and there's +6s to be had. So I'm telling you, one of the names in that under 600, under 500 will end up being a pretty reliable F6. It's just trying to crystal ball it is difficult.
Yeah, exactly. Just got a couple more super chats here as well, so appreciate this. So Tim Asher was just saying, sorry guys, didn't say it properly, mate. That's all good. We got there in the end. So Miles,
we had Lemon to decipher it for us. We got there.
Lemon got us back on track. And then Jared V's got this other super chat as well. So thank you very much for that, mate. He said, fellas, Simpkin and Young to Keys and Sarong. Or do I go rookie downgrade and then go Young to either Steele or Treloar and loop between Simpkin and Dowling? So, Lemon, what are your thoughts on those options there for Jared?
Well, I think we've just talked about Simpkin, and he's one of those guys that could be F6 for the rest of the year. It's a bit unknown, so I wouldn't be trading him. I'd be more likely to bring him in than trade him out this week. And I think similar with Young, I think he's playing West Coast this week. Pretty easy matchup for a midfielder. So, it's easy just to look at his last couple of weeks and say, oh, he's been a bit rubbish. But that's in the past now, and I expect him to bounce back this week. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just had a few tougher matchups. Maybe played a little bit more forward, but. I'd maybe do something a bit different. Maybe a rookie downgrade and then use some cash. But I probably wouldn't use it on Young. Maybe look at getting that F7 that we've been talking about, or maybe bank it for next week if you need to do an upgrade after this week. It's really all about just playing the matchups at this point, because if Young bangs out 110, 120 this week, then you can maybe trade him next week. You don't necessarily need to pull the trigger this week with a nice easy matchup. And likewise, a guy who's come off a 130, you might actually be better off trading him because he's got a tougher matchup. So. We saw that with Dunkley this week. He's a gun, but then he gets the tougher matchup and puts up a 60. So it can happen.
Yeah, exactly. Jordox, your thoughts on the question as well?
Yeah, I agree. I would be getting rid of Simpkin if you can loop between him and Dowling. The Crows are at home against Hawthorn this week, and Dowling is. He's pretty reliable for a 60 to 70, as his lowest point, hopefully. Don't hold me to it. But I think Simpkin, his score was poor on the weekend, but his role was as it was. He's one of the main CBA guys. Yeah, exactly. Sarong's interesting because I just looked at his price and it is super tempting. He's only just over 800, but I don't know if the weekend suggests he's turned the corner like we've seen, say, a Tom Green do in the last 5 weeks. I just think he finally got a run, but I don't think sides will let him go untethered like that for the run home. So I'm not convinced yet, but the price is right. So
I actually think in terms of midfield upgrades this way, a lot of the guys we're looking at bringing in have either got really tough matchups or, in a Taranto's case, come from concussion. So I almost think that, fun enough, Jack Steele and Caleb Sarong are two of the guys I don't actually mind as upgrades in the midfield. So if you're looking at it, but the good thing, I guess, with Dowling and Manor this week is Manor plays very early in the round and Dowling plays at the end of the round. So if you've got a Simpkin or whatever, so Simpkin plays early in the round, you could put him on the bench, see what he does. If he doesn't go well, you can play Dowling, or vice versa. If you've got a Manor and you're looping with, let's say, a Toby Green, for example, actually, I don't know if I can use Toby Green because I'm literally one of only a few coaches that have got him. So anyway, someone that plays later in the round, you could loop Manor, see how he goes, and if he doesn't scores poorly, then you can play whatever F7 you've got there. So yeah, so you can definitely play around with a few things with the F7. We did have one question I wanted to actually go through as well, and we'll obviously flick through a heap of these questions now. But Just a Human was saying, what are our thoughts on Trent Rivers now that Salem's out for 3 to 4 weeks? And Simon Stacks also asked, is Rivers a trade now as well? So Jordox, obviously poor score on the weekend from Rivers. We saw even during the game that they moved him back to half-back and put Salem a bit more in the midfield, and obviously we saw what Kynan Brown did in the VFL on the weekend with 24 tackles and 27 touches, and you'd think after a game like that, surely comes in and has an okay role, maybe some CBAs there. So thoughts on Rivers out, because he's a decent price you can get to a lot of good defenders.
Well, the question was asked on Sunday night as well, and I think we kind of agreed that cash him in, but with this news of Salem being out for 3 to 4 with the hamstring, and the fact that Melbourne
can't trust him at the moment.
Well, they got towed up playing Freo on the weekend. So I don't know. I tend to think they'd go back to putting Rivers in the middle. Gawn should be back. I don't think he's a priority trade out. I think you could, but I'm just much more comfortable and bullish on him now that the Salem injuries happened. I'm saying it's a good thing it happened, Bales. Just saying now that that's happened, it'll be good for Rivers.
Yeah, right. So good, mate. I just thought you had the other one teed up for me. I had to go. Caleb Pfeiffer's got this question here, Lemon. So he said he's actually saying, who would you trade first out of Dacos and Young? And obviously we talked about Young before, but I wouldn't be trading Dacos this week. Graham's still out for a week, and Dacos got Richmond. So, but just a bit of a flag. I'm looking at trading Dacos next week. He's got Chincotta into I think Sydney, I believe it is as well. There's Brisbane there. There's Melbourne, who I think's a tag as well. So I think you could have a tag in every game. So just something to have a bit of a look at. But he asks here, who would you bring in out of Heaney or Keys, and which midfielder would you choose out of Treloar, Neal, and Brayshaw? So firstly, what would you do out of is it Heaney? You just get the top forward over Keys?
I think the Keys still has a lot of question marks for me. So there's no guarantee. I mean, the Crows, I think you said before, they might have a 1% chance of making finals, but realistically, they're not going to play finals. And if they do, they're sort of just going to scrape in. So I think the Crows might blood a bit more youth into the midfield rather than put Keys in there. And he's the kind of guy we've seen a lot that he has a good game and scores 100, and then he has a bad game and puts up a 40 or 50 or something. So I definitely prefer Heaney. I think with all the chaos in the forward lines at the moment, if you can get one of those top 4 or 5 guys, you just lock him in. Heaney's not going to be under 90, I think, for the rest of the season, barring an injury or something crazy happening. So just take Heaney.
Yeah, I agree
with that. Yeah,
and then
I am proud. I am proud of Keezy though. He's in the same conversation as Heaney.
Yeah.
Look how far
God, imagine if you would never have picked it at the start of the year. I thought Keys was done. I thought he was
6 weeks ago even. Yeah.
I'm just glad that even with that game on the weekend, even people on like all the footy talk show and stuff are talking about Keys and how good he went, and he's an underrated player, because I know Jordox, both us two have said how much we love Keysy. So, but anyway, this isn't Crows podcast, fantasy podcast. We got Treloar, Neal, or Brayshaw. Lemon, who would you be picking out of those 3 guys?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love Treloar. I own him, but I wouldn't be grabbing him for the Sydney matchup. I think you're just opening yourselves up for a bit of disappointment there. Neal or Brayshaw? Neal's actually got not too bad a run for the rest of the year. I just think he's going to get a hard tag at some point. I'm not exactly sure when that is.
In the final week.
Maybe.
Bedford. Giants, maybe.
Bedford in a few weeks, yeah. So I think if you're going a Brisbane midfield, I prefer to bring in Dunkley. So I think who's that? That leaves Brayshaw. I
Yeah.
actually don't mind Brayshaw for the next couple of weeks. I think he might be right.
A lot of people are looking at sort of his last. I really like him as an option. His last 5 scores, he 136 against Gold Coast, and 80 against Sydney at the SCG. Sydney, very hard to score against. We've seen everyone not scoring very well. Richmond 146, Hawthorn 84 in that really low scoring game where the Rucks and Jordan Cutt went over 100, and then 120 against Melbourne. So the decent matchups, he's actually gone over 120 in, and he's got West Coast, Essendon, and Geelong, which are pretty good, especially West Coast and Geelong, and he's not going. Sarong's going to get the tag, so I'm probably leaning Brayshaw. It's crazy to think that he's up at 908k after such a yo-yo sort of season, but
yeah, he's actually pulling together not a terrible year. You know, he's averaging 103, I think it is now. He's coming home strong, so his average might be 105 to 110 by the end of the year, which it's almost what you paid for him at the start of the year. So I think we're seeing with these midfielders, the talent does come through in the end, and they get the right matchup, they can bang out a 140, 150, and all of a sudden, they're averaging with the top of the line. So, I think either one of those you could, Neil or Brayshaw. It's tough though, because there's going to be some good games for him, but he's the kind of guy that could put up a 60, 70 as well. So you just got to be ready for that.
I'm Treloar out of that group, even with the matchup this week, because players still ton up against Sydney. It's just not as many. So LDU scored a ton at the SCG a few weeks ago when they got smashed. The only concern I'd have is the James Jordan tag, more so than the fact that Sydney at the SCG
slash Adams / Rowbottom. You don't know who's going to do a job.
I know. And after the game he played last week, Treloar, they'd be crazy not to put time into him. But he's still got Bontempelli there. There's still Libba there. And I think Treloar is still largely underrated in the AFL circles in terms of damaging midfielders. So, yeah, I like Treloar this week, even with that. Just Brayshaw, if I had him, I'd just be so frustrated because he goes 120 and you think, here we go. You'd be thinking, I'm a genius here. I got him in. Here we go. 80. Despondent.
Well, that's what Luke.
And then next week,
Bull Boys has said all year. Yeah, Luke from the Bull Boys said all year he's been frustrated. So, it's interesting. But I think Neil probably the one that he's probably not looking at just because the Bedford and then potentially a Caldwell one there, even though he could put up good scores around. Because if you bring a premium now, you probably want to hold him for a little bit, not just bring him for 1 week. But then again, your team might be in that position. So we got heaps of super chats flying through tonight. So very much appreciate all the legends supporting the channel out here. So Tim Ashworth just come through again, said, could you he's 2 options he's really looking at is going the rookie down and then Dawson up, and then going Jackson to Wood. Or would you be going Dawson to Stewart and keeping Jackson for the week? So Jordox is obviously you mentioned this before about Jackson with West Coast. Is there an option where you just do the Dawson to Stewart and keep Jackson, just do a rookie downgrade instead? Or would you rather go Jackson to Mason Wood for a bit of a pod?
No, I reckon you're holding Jackson in that, which is interesting because I'm in that spot myself. But Dawson up is pretty appetizing because then you're grabbing the best midfielder available. So, don't know. It's a tricky one, Tim. That is a tricky one. Stewart is looking good, though.
Yeah. Who would have thought? Jordox. So, but yeah, we got another super chat here as well from the Slesser with his first super chat on the channel. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate this. He said, "G'day, legends. Need to trade Dawson this week. Straight up to Dunkley or go for Tom Stewart." So Lemon, obviously Dunk had a poor one last week, but he's actually got a pretty nice run to finish, especially next 2. He's got Gold Coast. I think he averages 115 against them in his career, which is one of his highest of any team. Then he's also got St Kilda at Marvel the week after. But then you've also got Tom Stewart, right? Who's got this amazing role in this sort of midfield that can float back. So if you had to pick one, who would you be going for this week?
Yeah, I think I think he's looking at the right names. I probably would go to Dunkley. I think he's proven that he's a sort of top midfielder, and he's got a pretty nice matchup with Gold Coast this week. Pretty good run for the rest of the year. So I'd also be happy to get Tom Stewart. I guess the one reason you could get Tom Stewart is if you're planning on trading out a defender next week. Might give you a bit more flexibility to grab who you want. But so just at this time of year, I always like to look, 1 or 2 weeks ahead. Just at least think. I think there's only 10 trades left for the year, so you can sort of count. You might need 2 or 3 downgrades in that. You've only got you might get 1 or 2 injuries. You've only really got 4 or 5 players you can actually trade out. Take a look at who's going out in the next couple of weeks, and you might realize that I better grab a defender now while I can, because Stewart's going to jump up in price again this week. We think probably another 40, 50k. He might get out of reach for you, but I'd go Dunkley. I think I like him for this week and moving forward.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And then we got another super chat here as well from Rosa with his 5th on the channel there. So thank you very much for that, mate. Jordox, he says, Goulden or Shees? We'll get the other next one. I like this question. It's a good one. Who would you be picking between these two boys?
That is a good question. I think I'd be jumping on
got
Shees
great
this week.
matchups.
Yeah, I quite like Sheasel this week. Yeah, I think the Sydney have the Bulldogs, might be a little bit tougher. They also play Port the week after, which can be a bit
it's a good shout. Yeah,
a bit tough. So I'd maybe even wait 2 weeks on Goulden and grab Shees, and then
I guess the question is, because it's he'll get the other one next week, but
maybe you want to get Goulden for the better matchup.
So I guess the question is, nothing is guaranteed. So out of the two, who's the one you'd want for the rest of the year?
I think you need Shees by next week. He's got Richmond at Marvel. That could be big.
Yeah.
That's probably Shees, I reckon. Jordox, is that where you're leaning?
I think for the 5 weeks we've got, I'd rather have Goulden, but it's hard to ignore.
Maybe get Goulden in a couple of weeks. Maybe get Sheasel, then someone else next week. Then you get Goulden after, because Goulden's run actually after the Port game is pretty nice. He's got a good sort of 3 games finished here. But I agree. The Port matchup in between in Adelaide is a little bit scary there. So maybe, but then again, Goulden's a player, right? That you can go, well, maybe he's just not going to get that ceiling. But yeah, very good options there. But Lemon, also you had a few questions that you said that a few of the people sent through to you on the tweet. So if you want to pull them up and we can chat through a couple of those if you want.
Yeah,
we've had after some of the ones in live chat here.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, thanks for everyone who sent through questions. There's a few here that we've already covered around the F6, F7 kind of range. I think we've talked about it enough. It's very hard to split these guys. If you guys had a choice and could bring in any forward that you don't own, who would you be bringing in this week out of interest?
If they don't have Dylan Moore, he would obviously be probably at the top. But if it's not Dylan Moore, that's sort of where I don't know about Ben Keys just because he might play mid this week, but Matt Crouch, this is a test. He could be back. Crows have got a really tough run in for terms of fantasy scoring for the last 4 games after the Geelong one. I'm almost leaning to Mason Wood. Every game I think's at Marvel on the run home as well. I think Caminiti will be back very soon, so that's another tall forward. So I'd almost lean to him, and Simpkin I still like as well with an easy run. I would have said Fisher, but who knows what's going on with Fisher at the moment. So yeah, I think Simpkin or Mason Wood. Funny that everyone wants to trade that Simpkin, but I like him.
And for me, I don't have Dylan Moore, and he's probably the likely one I bring in if I do trade Jackson out.
Yeah, I like that. I think Dylan Moore, I'd be happy to have him at F5. That's what I currently do. And then after that, it's Simpkin, Wood. I'd probably want to hear a bit more about Keys playing midfield before I jump there.
Yeah, I don't think he will be playing midfield, Keys.
He's too valuable as a forward for the Crows.
He'll be playing the role he's playing at the moment, which is the pressure forward. And at the moment, it's working for him because he's laid 8 tackles in a few games, I think I saw, and he's obviously kicked 5 on the weekend, kicked 4 a few weeks ago. So it's all coming together for him. And yeah, a 50 could just be around the corner. But I'd probably want to see it again this week.
Yeah, and I think that with Keys is that, as I said, he's so valuable as a forward. And the only reason he went in the midfield on the weekend was because Dawson was concussed and didn't play pretty much all the last quarter. Arguably, probably shouldn't have played the first 5 minutes of the last quarter as well. I'll take the 10 points of that he got in those couple of minutes though. And then Roy Laird had a corky that he got in the third quarter and didn't only played about 50% of the last quarter. So I think that was more why Keys went in. And the Crows have said if they need him to play mid, then they will. So
I think Rankin might be back as well at some point.
Round 22,
so
yeah.
He maybe comes back in, plays a bit of midfield time at the end, and they want to see him in the midfield. If he should be fit enough, he's suspended, so he'll be running a fair bit. Yeah, I think I agree with that. Maybe wait and see what the Crows do with Keys, and if they come out and say he's going to be a full-time midfielder, then yeah, jump on. But I can't see that happening. He's so good in that role.
Can I throw another name out there? It's a bit left field, but he's 597. Done. All right, see you later. 597K, Sam Draper. Now, if Todd Goldstein was out of the picture, I reckon there'd be a lot more talk about him. But his scores since the buys, he's gone 94, 49, 79, 91, 83. He's probably just a watch at the moment, but I don't know if
Goldie could just come back in the next week, though. That's the only thing that worries me with that.
Oh, Goldie's playing.
No. Sorry, I meant if Goldie was out this week, then he could just easily be out the following week. So that's, and if you get Carnage, F7 maybe, because he could cover a ruck and forward. That'd be the only probably way I'd look at it, I reckon. But
yeah, it's not a bad shout. I think he's anytime a solo ruck pops up, I'm always interested. I think they're some of the best buys you get in fantasy, and yeah, especially as a forward. So, I think it's a risky one, but
up against Marshall this week, yeah, probably not.
Yeah, maybe not. Got another question here from Kyle, who is currently ranked 340th, looking to get into hat territory. So he might need a bit of a play, and he's asking whether he can trade Hayden Young to Tom Stewart. But knowing that he might miss out on a good score from Hayden Young this week against the Eagles. So you're already on Tom Stewart, Bales, so you're obviously a big fan of him.
Yeah,
on the run home.
Yeah, I jumped on last week. Thankfully, I couldn't afford Newman because I was going to get Newman instead. But Stewart, there's not many players that got this role. That anytime you can see a player with a role where they've got CBAs and then kick-ins. But not only that, they've got some games in the last few weeks where you'd expect Geelong to win and maybe win quite well. We know that he goes back for some waxing at the end of games and can just pick up 30 points in the space for a couple of minutes just with some +6s. So I just think a guy like that, I think he's now got, we've seen a couple, maybe a year and a bit where he hasn't had the ability to hit those massive scores. I think in this role, we could see potentially a score of 130, 140 plus from Stewart. I think he did against the Crows from memory back at GMHBA a couple of years ago, got like a 160. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a 150 on the run home at some point. So I think Stewart for me, I'm a big fan.
Jordox? Like
yeah, I do. I don't know if we're going to see that sort of ceiling game from him this year. I think everything Bale said, though, I agree. Other than that, I do agree with. And this Stewart into the midfield thing, we've talked about in previous weeks. It's not come out of nowhere. In pre-season, it was talked about. He was training with the mids, and we thought maybe it would happen. And now we're at a point where Geelong are just trying different things, and it's working. I mean, they got flogged on the weekend, but Stewart's playing a really good role as a midfielder.
Hasn't he turned up in every game he's played in the midfield, I reckon, as well?
Yeah. I think, is it Roy? One of the traders says that every time. I think it's Roy. Yeah. Literally 100% of the time of his career as a midfielder, he's scored a ton. So, hey, it's hard to argue with those numbers. Tanner Bruhn will probably return for him this week, but I can't see that affecting Stewart's role. The only thing that could affect his role would be Cam Guthrie, but he's still 3 weeks away, and I'd be surprised if we really saw him before finals anyway. So Stewart is pretty solid, I reckon.
Even if he came back, though, with 2 weeks to go, Geelong have got St Kilda at Marvel, and then they've got West Coast at GMHBA Stadium in the final round of the season.
Yeah.
There's a chance that he... Yeah.
Plenty of ball to be had back
Should be
there.
some
And
points around there, yeah.
And even the 3 weeks, sorry, last thing on Stewart, just because this was when I had him, but the 3 weeks before this midfield change, he was scoring 70s and 80s in the defensive role, but at 3/4 time in those 3 games, he was on track for 90 to 100. He just had these 3 weeks in a row where the last quarters where he just scored 0 or 3 or whatever for various reasons. So that's the last thing on Stewart. He's gold. If you can get him, go get him.
Love it. Interesting one here from Matthew. Any cash cows to bring in this week? Are you guys looking at bringing in cash cows at the moment, or?
Yeah. So, well, that's one of my trades I'll be going down. I think at this point in the year, and let me be interesting to hear your thoughts as the value king. I think that at this point in the year, if you've got a decent bench guy in each line, and you've got one, I think it's probably time that we don't have to bring in red dots, but guys making their debuts or guys come back in. Like I'm expecting a Kynan Brown to be named this week. I think after scoring 197 fantasy points and having 24 tackles, surely that's got to get you some game time, and surely it's not the sub again. Because I know Melbourne copped a bit of slack for that, and rightly so. You can't sub a guy 2 weeks in a row. But anyway, I think he's probably the guy mid forward 200k that you could look at, or anyone that's under 220 you could target.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, Jordox, any guys you're really looking at? Or?
No, I'm just looking now. I can't. None pop springing to mind. It's probably something I'd look more on a Thursday night when the teams come out, if there's any surprises. Because I'm with Bales, like job security and longevity and role it's not a huge deal. So if there's like a kid named on Thursday, 200k guy, you could probably just do it.
Binsy's another one. Binsy, if he gets a game for Carlton with a few injuries, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Well, what about this Ted Closey? He came in for the Cats, had scored 32 in just 24% game time. So if he holds his spot, he's 206 as a forward. But yeah, nothing obvious like we've had in recent weeks. Yeah, he was the late in.
Yeah, late in. I'm always a bit worried about a late in because they, if they weren't even named in the 23 at the start of last week, then there's no guarantee they'll be named in the 23 at the start of this week. But I think from my perspective, like at the moment, if I'm bringing a player, it's a 200k, and I'm also happy. At the moment, I've actually been looking to bring in red dots because I'm looking for loopholes rather than people who actually play. Some of these guys will score 40, 50 points. I don't want that on my field at all, even as an emergency. So I think I'd if you can and you don't need the cash, I'd probably just bring in a 200k who's not playing and maybe has a bit of a DPP, and then you can just move them around.
If you're looking for one guy to be actual cover that you really want to know that you'll get a solid score, I know Zach Taylor's expensive now, but he's going to be playing midfield for the rest of the year for the Crows, and 280k, scored 78 on the weekend. But
yeah,
I'm with you. I've just Lemon 200k guys from here.
Yeah, I agree. And if you need cover, I've just had a quick look, and there's probably 2 or 3 names I don't mind. Like Hugh Bond is 215k. He might still be in the team if he's in this week. You could look at him at 215. You've also got a Caleb Smith at 203k for Richmond, scored a 50 last week against Port, which is not too bad as well. He's 203. So if you need someone for cover, they're probably the couple that you could probably look at bringing in, and maybe a Bailey Laurie if he was named for Melbourne 216.
Yeah, nice. I think just a few other questions around trading Zach Butters out. I think a few people particularly worried about him maybe copping a tag from Chincotta this week. What do you guys feel about that? How do you feel about that? Would you be scared off from that tag, or are you guys? Do either of you own him? You trade Bales?
Yeah, I don't have him, but he's got Carlton, as you mentioned, with Chincotta, but then he goes into Sydney, so it could be Adams, Rowbottom, Jordan, who knows, could be any of them. And then he's got Melbourne, who been sort of on and off, but then again could cop a nil ball. And then the Crows are always low scoring fantasy games. There's never really too many guys going big in those. And Freo over at Optus, I think Freo won the hardest midfield to score against at the moment. So I'd be trading. He's 9.19. You can go to everyone. You can make money. So
nice.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. I'd be pretty happy if Zach Butters was my main concern this week. I wouldn't be too worried about it. If you've got him as a trade-in target, you obviously wouldn't now. because of that run. But I've got him. I'm not too worried about him. He'll bounce back.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, Jordox. I think so. It looks like Chincotta spent a bit of time with Bukircha last week, but then you've got Harry Sheasel running around, Luke Davies-Uniacke running around. Didn't look like he spent any time on those two. So based on that, it looks like he might do a role on one of the Port defenders rather than a midfielder.
And the Sydney one was interesting too, wasn't it, Bales? Jordan didn't go to Neil. It was Taylor Adams.
No,
so.
It was Adams.
Yeah,
the reason
go.
So the reason I think that Butters will be tagged by Chincotta is because if people remember, might have been just over a month ago, Port played Carlton Adelaide Oval and Chincotta went to Butters and Carlton won the game pretty convincingly in the last quarter, and Butters didn't touch on it, thinking he didn't have much of an impact, especially in the last quarter, and he only got a 74. So I think that when teams have shown something works, they're going to do it again. This at Marvel, it's Carlton obviously they got the win, but they lost a couple before that. They need to win this game. Port need to win the game. I think that. I
wonder if Rosie was playing in that game, if that would change things.
No, I don't think he was. No, but I still think that they'll take Butters. That's just what I think. But and again, who knows? So
it's hard to pick.
Yeah, I think that's it. You're speculating that he gets a tag. If he doesn't get a tag, he might put up a 120, and then you're sort of scratching your head trying to work out why you traded him. So I think if it was me, I don't know Butters, but if it was me, I'd probably look at holding, and maybe even you can loop him on the emergency. If he puts up a 60 or 70, then you could maybe look at bringing in another midfielder or putting a rookie on field or whatever. But I'd still be expecting an 80 or 90 if he's tagged. I think he's good enough to break that.
Yeah, agreed. We just got a couple. Just got a couple of quick super chats that we just got through here as well. I appreciate they're flying through tonight. Tim Ashworth said, "What do you think I should do?" So he's in the same boat as us. We're sort of all unsure of what option to go for, but I think that we probably like the potentially Holland Jackson this week, and just with the West Coast matchup of just doing Dawson to Stewart or to a midfielder. That's probably what we would do. And then Power Prawns as well as put through super chats. Thanks very much for that, mate. He said, I've cut my bench to 2 DPPs, sick of not being able to loot my captain, which is the best VC this week. I'll be doing my captain video, Thursday when that comes out. So obviously we'll preview that. But boys, any sort of early sort of VC thoughts that anyone likes? Obviously, Sheasel plays pretty early in the round. I think Marshall and Merritt play in the twilight game as well. Anyone else?
If there's still no Stanley at Geelong, I reckon Cherry could be a vice option early Saturday. But I have a feeling
I think Stanley comes in.
Yeah,
I said that with MJ before. I reckon that happens with Geelong losing and Cherry being a big ruck. Lemon, any thoughts on who you're looking at VC this week?
Yeah, I've currently got it on Cherry, but Sheasel could be an option as well. In terms of my captain, at the moment it's sitting on Sarong. I think he plays well in the derbies, and
West
should
Coast
be a bit of ball there.
Either.
West Coast have looked. Depends a bit on West Coast ins though. I think they might have a few midfielders coming back this week. I think Yo really helps their midfield a lot, so I'll probably look there. But to be honest, there's a few. It's really hard this time of year. You've got a full team of premiums. There should be 5 or 10 guys you can pick as captains. So
I reckon a bounce back game from Dunkley in the Q Clash Saturday twilight. That would be a good vice. Yeah,
nice. I like that. They smashed them last time they played, didn't they? They had a big. Was that the one where Dunkley went 170 or something?
Yeah, 151, Zorko 184, whatever. I still felt the Dunkley one could be repeated. Like, he got a 151, but he hit all the stat lines. It was Zorko the one just got so many cheap +6s. But I feel like Dunkley still got a lot of those points the way that Dunkley does. So, and he knows he probably didn't play too well, even though they won. So, he probably want to make up for it on the weekend. So,
very true.
Great. Few good shouts. Lemon, do you have any other last questions here as well for us?
I think they were the main ones. We've sort of touched on a lot of those. It's a lot of questions just coming in around the forward line. I think we've talked about that to death. So it's not easy for anyone. That's the thing. We're all in a similar position. No one's really happy with their F6. So if you get to someone who's 80 plus, or loop someone who's 70 plus, and then maybe just concentrate elsewhere.
Cool. We got probably got for about another 5 minutes or so. So we'll do a bit of rapid fire with all those questions. So plenty of questions flying through here. So I'll go sort of one question each year, and then we'll sort of get through as many as we can. So Jim 910 Jordox, who is a bigger priority this week, Stewart or Sheasel?
Sheasel.
Johnny has got this one. Lemon, LDU or Sarong?
I love Sarong this week. He might wear my captain's armband, so definitely Sarong.
And Detached has also said Butters to Sarong. Would you tick that trade off?
I don't love trading Butters, but I think that will be an upgrade for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
it's 100K pretty much you're banking, so I guess that's the positive.
True. If you're doing it for the cash, that'd be nice.
I absolutely love trading Butters out, but that's just a Crows fan in me saying that. So I still can't believe he's racked up the most, Buddy, as well for suspension. It's pretty crazy, but
he's still going as well. He's gonna set a pretty hard record to catch, I think.
Exactly. What do we got next one? Jack Main Jordox. So would you go LDU or Warner to Walsh and hang on, would you do LDU or Warner to Walsh and Sarong? Interesting. Bringing in Walsh and Sarong. But I don't know if you trade out LDUs. We've got a pretty good run coming up.
Yeah, he's pretty frustrating to own. I've had LDU for a bit. But no, I don't know. I've got a feeling about Walsh, so I couldn't recommend trading him in.
What about Warner Warner to Sarong? I'd tick that off.
Oh, yeah. Is it? Yeah, definitely. Sarong's the right price. But yeah, I'm not sure what Warner's been doing. But yeah, you can definitely go Warner to Sarong.
Yep. Thomas Langley just had this about Walsh here. He said Walsh had most of a preseason, just missed the last few weeks. He's just getting tagged most games now. So be interesting to see if Walsh can bounce back. I do know that currently come up against a few teams have got a guy that does a tag that's a little bit taller, so like a Nash, for example, for Hawthorn. So maybe Cripps starts getting the tags because Cripps is on an absolute tear at the last 2 months. So that's definitely something to potentially think of. Yes, Harry Thomas got this one, Jordox. So he said, should I go Dawson to a top guy like Dunkley or Treloar, or go Tom Stewart?
Are you going to put a VC or a C on Stewart? Probably not. I'd go Dunks or Treloar. Yep,
obviously, unless you need the cash. But I guess if you sort of can decide between the two, you probably don't need the cash. So, yep, I don't mind Dunk. I'll probably Dunkley, I reckon, with the matchups you talked for, Jordox. Let's go. So Corey Blackledge, Lemon, Zach Jones under 400K. Thoughts on him as a player? I think he's 399. Scored 102 on the weekend.
Wow, under 400K. That's crazy. Yeah, 102 on the weekend against West Coast. I think we just need to, take that with a grain of salt. But that is very tempting. I remember Zach Jones. I think back when I finished the person who won had Zach Jones in a team for the last round, and he put up a decent score and got of the car. So I still get nightmares about Zach Jones playing on other people's fantasy teams. I don't think I could own him after that. He cost me a lot that day. So yeah, I wouldn't touch him. But if you're looking for a cheap loop option, you could
M9.
Could try M9.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah,
I like him more than an overpriced rookie, I think. So
yeah. Simon Sets got this question, Jordox. Thoughts on Luke Jackson to Charlie Curnow as my F7 loop, and then Rivers to Shees? Well, I don't even need to say the second one's a great trade. Get Shees in. But what are your thoughts on Curnow as the F7 loop?
Oh, beautiful. Love it. I don't know the fixture, but I'm assuming there's going to be some early Carlton games. You got the Friday night this week. And, out of all the potential sort of key forward types that we're looking at as forward options, I like Charlie the best because what I said about him going behind the ball. I'd love to have their fixture. If they've got a bunch of Friday, Saturday games coming up, I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah. We can have him just... Oh, yeah, Lemon.
They got Port on Friday night this week, and then they go into Collingwood, Hawthorn, West Coast, St Kilda. So that West Coast game excites me. I think that could be a big 100. Collingwood might not be a bad matchup either. So, yeah, he's a great one to have as an F7 because he could kick a bag and go 120, or he might have a terrible game and go 40. and you want the 120, but you don't want the 40. So if you put him at F7, if he's got some early games and you can loop him, great. But just make sure as well, if he plays a Saturday game, but your loop option plays on Friday, you can't actually loop him, and you've got to put him on field then. So the biggest trouble with that is over 5 weeks, it's actually pretty hard to have a red dot that plays at the right time. So just you might actually need to bring in a red dot rather than bring in Charlie Curnow. Might help you a bit more. So
I just had a look at Carlton's fixtures. So they actually play Saturday. They obviously play Friday night this week. They play Saturday night next week. But then after that, they play first game on the Sunday, final game of the round against West Coast. And then obviously the round 24 hasn't been released yet. So it's probably a guy you're probably going into, not looping, to see what he does. But no, I still don't mind it. DJ's got this one, Lemon. Steele or Dawson? Steele or Dawson. Steele or Stewart for Dawson, or anyone else on 872?
Oh, I mean, I do quite like Stewart, and I think giving that extra flexibility of being able to trade our defender next week, if you want, you don't have to. You could run 7 defenders until the end of the season. I quite like Stewart this week. I don't think he's going to be huge this week, but I think after that he might go on a bit of a run. Yeah,
I agree. We'll do a couple more here, then we will wrap up. Or actually, that actually might be all the questions. There's just a bit of back and forth going on in the chat. So every now and again we get that. So fair enough. Everyone to their own. But yeah, all right. Well, we'll wrap up there then. I reckon that's pretty much all of the questions. So we'll just go around the tables and just see what our early trade plans are for the week. So Lemon, what are your early trade plans for this week?
Yeah, currently Luke Ryan is going to Sheel. I think that's. Yeah, Sheel definitely comes in for me this week. I need to own him. He's really the one player who's going to hurt me. So he's coming in, and then the second trade, I'm not exactly sure. It might just be a rookie fix up, just to give me a nice red dot that I can use in looping. I might look at bringing in a Stewart or maybe a Dunkley or something, but yeah, not sure.
Yeah, it's crazy that you scored 2,478 and you didn't have Sheel and you didn't have Whitfield captain. So it's just bloody awesome week, mate. So no, good, very good to have you on after such a belter of a week, mate.
It was a high scoring week though. You look around and there are heaps of popular players who had 120s, 130s, 140s. I think I had 8 players go over 120. So that adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Jordox, mate, early trade plans for you?
Oh, gee, I'm really thinking about this Charlie Curnow idea. We never said that before, because that could really be a solution for me. Because, yeah, I don't know. I'm really all over the place. Luke Jackson to Dylan Moore, even Brodie Grundy up to Gawn, just to have him as a bit of a unique for the run home. That would be fun. Hayden Young, Luke Ryan, these guys are really giving me the shits back there. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I like Curnow. I reckon that could be a good idea for me. So I'll look into that. What about anyone keen for Matt Crouch, if he's somehow back in this week at 9-11?
I know a few people that had Crouch were saying, it's fine because you weren't going to have him as your top 8 mid anyway. But funny enough, when you look at his scores when he's playing, he's actually one of the most consistent ones that there was.
I just can't believe it's a test. Yeah, it's crazy.
I would find it very hard to believe he plays this week. If anything, I think it's next week. But who knows? You just never know. But yeah, my trade plans are I'm the same as Lemon. Again, as I said on Sunday, have you ever had that moment when you're sort of doing something, you're thinking, why the hell am I doing this? That was me watching North and Carlton because I had none of the players, and I can't watch North anymore. So I need Sheel back, going Dawson to Sheel. And then I'm actually going Joe Richards down to Connor Brown because I'm going to have 200K in the bank to then next week. I'll be able to make bring in 2 guys, whoever I want. So that might be bringing in someone like a Noah Anderson or something like that. So that's my plan at the moment. And yeah, as I said, Connor Brown's probably the guy that I think will come into the team for Melbourne this week. So, but beautiful. All right. Well, that'll wrap us up there. But I appreciate everyone that sent through their questions tonight. And also just an extra shout out for Corey Blackledge, Power Prawn Star, Jared V, the Slesser, Raws at 238, and obviously Tim Ashworth and Power Bronze Star again for their super chats tonight. Very, very much appreciated there for the support. But mate, thank you very much for jumping on with us. Always great to chat fantasy. One of the best minds around. Where can the people find you across the socials?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Always a pleasure. You can find me on X at lemon_DT. I'll be posting every week and hopefully charging towards the top 100. But I think I'm resigned to maybe I might be able to slip into the top 500 if I'm lucky. So see how we go.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, thanks, mate. Hopefully, we can both get a hat. Maybe you never know. You might be able to make that late season charge and get a hat. My fingers are crossed that I'd be able to get another. I was going to say get one, but you can obviously get another one as well. So you're already owning one. Jordox, mate.
Lemon, do you wear it around the house? The hat?
No, I've got them sitting on my desk. So yeah, I look at them every day, and it sort of gives me a bit of inspiration to.
Do you ever put them on and walk around the house just wearing a hat? Look in the mirror. That's right, big boy. That's what I'd be doing.
No, I occasionally wear them to the footy or something, but to be honest, not many people notice them. I get it's kind of funny. Like people don't really think so much about them, so they just sit there gathering dust, really. But it is still enjoyable to look at them every now and then.
We can only dream, Bales. Hopefully, 5 weeks away for you.
Yeah, fingers crossed. In a couple big weeks. But as always, Jordox, mate, pleasure as always chatting with you. Where can the people find you? And then just another plug for the subs account as well.
Yeah, I'm on X at Jordox 2020, and also make sure you've subscribed to at AFL Subs to get all the subs and late changes before anyone else. Zapping on your phone. You can go about your business on the weekend. We've got you covered.
Yeah, beautiful. No, appreciate that, and always good. And make sure you go and follow Jordox and the subs account. And you can find me at BalesDT. You can find Tim at TimGuestAU, and you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans, all on X. Obviously, as always, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And that we're nearly at 2.6K. I think we're only maybe 3 or so away. So if you haven't subscribed yet, so we can help reach the goal, be fantastic. And then if you're listening back to the pod, and if you can leave us a 5-star rating and review, that'd be very much appreciated. And if you'd like to leave me a question at Q, then you can ask me on q.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics, where I can answer all your trade questions, draft questions, captain, vice captain questions, team dependent questions you send through your whole team, all that good stuff. Link is in the description below at the very top if you'd like to go there and ask questions there as well. I'll be back for Trade Talk tomorrow, then Captain's Thursday, and then we're back for our pre-lockout chat on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Perth time, answering more of your questions before lockout. So have a good couple of days, guys. Happy trading, and we'll chat to you guys later in the week. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
See you later.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in as well on YouTube. Make sure you smash a like as well. Let's get 100 likes on the video as well, and make sure you subscribe. And also, just keep the YouTube chat positive next time, please, everyone. Let's calm. What's the guy on Supercoach guy always says? Just calm it down or whatever. So let everyone just calm and everything.
No,
but obviously, we'll chat to everyone next week. Thanks, guys. Well, no, next video. Anyway.